Hello everybody, my name is Danny, and today we're going to talk about something that is really, really disturbing, of course, but incredibly important to talk about, and that is the world's newest, let's call it a Fourth Reich, the world's newest fascistic bastion, Australia. Australia is pretty much becoming the modern world's Nazi Germany, and of course it's either you're gonna call it that because you see it like it really is, or you're like a large portion of people say on that are very vocal and present on social media and the internet, of course mainstream media, that's gonna try to push it the complete opposite direction and say that it's nothing remotely related. Well, the point of today's video is to show proof that there is direct, identical steps being taken that Nazi Germany did as they rose to power, especially throughout the 1930s. So over the last roughly 3 to 4 months, I've been following people on Instagram that are lifelong born and raised Australians. And actually, a good portion of them know people or from the epicenters of these total autocratic, even full-on dictatorship level of government and what they're doing in these different states within Australia. And it's been a huge boon and beneficial because they've been able to watch the disturbingness of it all unfold, and it's literally in direct step with, again, the buildup of Nazi Germany to power. In the very beginning, there's a lot more than the couple of clips I'm about to show you, which are the very, very beginning. I say very, very beginning, really. After they had just kickstarted it, but still in the beginning, the start of it, about 2-3 months ago, especially in Melbourne, in Victoria, which is pretty much the focal point and epicenter for a lot of people. Even though for Australians, it's kind of split between there and South Australia and New South Wales, as they've been doing a bunch of bullshit themselves when it comes down to their autocratic BS that they're just unleashing on their people and their full police state force of just basically iron boot to your throat type of thing to their citizenry that are out there protesting their clear autocracy that they're trying to install. There's a lot more to it. In fact, if you want to go see me show you and then give you my breakdowns of some other clips, then you can go to a video I'm going to link up in the upper right hand corner of the screen up here. You'll see it with a little eye icon. That's going to link to my main channel, TheCriminalViolin. There, or maybe you're even going to see this on both, but there you're going to end up seeing the link directly to a political commentary of the month that I've done recently. That was, I believe it was for September. That was on there. That basically I showed a bunch of the other original clips. In fact, one of these clips you're going to see in this beginning piece are actually going to be that of one I believe that I showed in there as well. I'm also going to make a compilation, by the way, where I'm going to take all the clips I have thus far, I'm going to make it into a video, and I'm going to just post it raw without commentary, face, anything. So you can just see the literal raw footage itself, direct from the horse's mouth there in Australia. I'm also going to do that with various screenshots and video clips that have to do with the proof, the opposite direction against the vaccines for COVID. And so again, it allows at least people to see the opposite sides of what, again, even places like Google, aka YouTube, would never want people to see, and they try to suppress and get rid of, or even damage, or doesn't suspend or completely ban accounts that share things that they consider harmful, dangerous misinformation. Because it's important to have all the different perspectives covered, so you can get a accurate gauge rather than just having your own echo chamber of what you currently believe or what you're told to believe. I'm digressing, let's get to the point.
Attention. This is a police public order warning. You have previously been directed to leave. Leave now or force may be used. No further warnings will be given.
So, a fun fact about the last clip of those first two is that, I say it's a fun fact, that's just impulse at this point to call it that naturally. Important fact about that second clip is the fact that that lady was either in her 60s or 70s, and that shove that made her fall actually broke her hip. And none of the cops except for that one guy gave enough of a fuck to care. They pepper sprayed her directly in the face too, heavily, as you saw. And yeah, she might be standing up to them and talking to them. She might even be yelling at them. But that's no cause for pepper spray. It's certainly not cause for pushing somebody to the ground and busting their fucking hip. And then just dumping them off and acting like you didn't just do all of that and leave them behind like they're a scrap of meat. These next clips are by far more recent. They're within the last week or so. I'm recording this on November the 19th of 2021, by the way. So it's within the last week of that date that these all were captured. These, again, to me, are very important things that give extra perspective and really show how fucking sad the situation is down there. The first one you're going to see is of a 14-year-old girl who's out there obviously scared out of her mind because she sees what's happening, but still standing up for the fact that she knows it's not right. So she's standing for what she believes in, standing for personal freedoms and rights. The fact that it's so getting so bad that you're provoking 13, 14-year-old kids to start standing up because of the fact that they are realizing they're getting penalized and they're getting hurt and their families and friends are getting hurt, all because of the fact that, you know, you aren't just complying with everything that they command of you, or you don't necessarily want to take the risks to believe things. Then, you know, this is the way that it's go. It's just so fucked up, though, what's happening down there. To get to the point where now you're having people of all age groups, even elderly people with arthritis and stuff, going out there and protesting all damn day, willing to go through the rigors and the pain of it because they see what's happening and they're not okay with it, and they're basically saying, we're not standing for it. You know, all the way down through, again, kids that are 12, 13, 14 that aren't at all necessarily there with their parents, or even were convinced to go there. They were themselves the ones who made the choice under their completely 100% their own choice to go out there because they're scared of what's happening. Because they see what's happening, they see how fast it's happening, and they're just like gonna make a stand because they don't want to live in a world where they just let something like that happen. It takes a really fucking powerful person to do that.
As a 14-year-old girl, I shouldn't have to be standing here fighting for my freedoms. I'm scared for my future, and I'm scared for my parents that they're going to lose their jobs and will be homeless because they don't want to give in. I'm just scared, you know, like I can't sit here fighting as a 14-year-old girl. I'm scared for when I have kids. What if this is still going on? I have to fight for my kids too. It's going to go on for so long, and I'm just going to, you know.
How has schooling been in the last 2 years for you?
My attendance has gone down and so have my grades. It's really stressful, and all my friends agree as well, and they're too scared to speak up, and more teenagers should be speaking out about it, about this power grab, because it's going to affect everyone's future. Well,
I can tell you something, maybe your grades have gone down, but you have much more intellect than the people in that building. By the way you talk and the passion you have, yeah. I think you're going to be alright.
Thank you.
This clip you're going to see and listen to a long-tenured nurse break it down, the reality of the whole COVID situation and how it's basically not at all in any way, shape, or form what the government's, the CDC even, let alone who, or for that matter, the media is presenting to you. Because who would know? The nurses and doctors would fucking know, especially in a hospital. The paramedics would know. And that should really fucking tell you something and open your eyes to reality. It's not as they're telling you it is. It never has been. And it's about control. And this is a really detailed, really in-depth, and just blunt force honest breakdown and even Q&A that she hosted with media to give the reality to people. So this is a really important one to pay close attention to, really take a deep listening to.
CDC, the Center for Disease Control, in America under Dr. Fauci, I don't know what will wake people up. You still get COVID, you still transmit COVID. You are still at risk of dying. You are very much at risk of dying. There are massive adverse serious effects. You have not got, 500 healthcare workers from South Australia here protesting silently, respectfully, outside Channel 9 because they've got nothing better to do, okay? We're on the verge of losing our jobs.
So
we are too young to retire.
So as a registered nurse, you're
Yes.
facing losing your job?
Absolutely. We don't even know where we stand. Apparently from the ABC News last night, 100 South Australian healthcare workers were being stood down. I don't think so. Try 3,000, okay? That's just in Adelaide alone. This is not okay because we want to do what we love doing, and that is caring for the South Australian community. We are passionate and we would not be here if we weren't. If we didn't care, we wouldn't be here, okay?
That you're all being asked to respectfully take leave at the moment?
We have been given so many different stories from Sal and Carl and Null, and we don't know what's going on. We hope that our entitlements get approved. Up until the 14th of November, the next power of emergency gets turned over, probably for another 2 to 4 weeks, because we know this is ongoing. We know this is planned. We're not stupid. The hospitals are not full of COVID patients. The hospitals are full of vaccinated patients, okay? I've got friends that work in ICU at Flinders. 30 out of 38 patients currently are vaccinated. That is a fact, okay? The media is, I'm sorry, respectfully to the media, please start telling the truth and please help us help you because you are all targeted. Every single person is targeted.
So as a registered nurse, are you seeing people in hospital? Are you treating people?
Yes. Serious adverse effects. Serious. And we're talking 20-year-olds. We are talking 20-year-olds that have dropped dead. Nothing is getting on the media. Myocarditis is a rare, let me tell you, a rare cardiac condition. All of a sudden, every third 20-year-old's got myocarditis. You know what that leads to? Cardiac transplant. Where do we get hearts from in Australia with the lowest organ donor rate in the world?
Can you just clarify what your role is in the healthcare system at the moment?
At the moment,
and how long
yes.
have you worked there for and why are you here?
Okay, I've had many roles. I actually trained at the Royal Adelaide. I'm 51. I've been a nurse for 32 years. I started off as an EN. I went in to do my Bachelor of Nursing. I was a single parent for 18 years. I'm a very strong person, as you can see. And then I went on and did my postgraduate in mental health nursing 4 years ago. I've got 2 degrees. I'm not an idiot. I'm not standing here because I'm an idiot. It's because we care about the South Australian community. Currently, I'm a registered mental health nurse at Flinders. I'm passionate about what I do. I look after the most vulnerable people in society. And they are even pushing this onto them. Okay, they are expecting us to push this onto them as mental health nurses. I don't think so.
And you've been put on leave, is that right?
We're on leave. I've asked for leave without pay. We don't know what's happening. I don't even know if I can get income protection. I'm lucky I've got a husband. A lot of my friends haven't. Okay, they're on the verge of getting kicked out of their houses.
How many people do you think, how many nurses will the system lose because of the mandatory vaccination?
Nurses alone? Close, I'd say at least 2,500 in South Australia alone. Okay, this is a small portion. 100? I don't think so. It's a lot more. I mean, we were looking at ramping pre-COVID. The system is not breaking. The system is broken. It is finished. Are you hearing ambulances all the time? Sirens? That's the vaccine injured. Okay, this is Adelaide. We're a small city. You don't get ambulances every hour. What's going on? People need to start asking questions. This is nothing against SA Health, all right? It's bigger than them. We understand that. We all want to keep our jobs. We're not here to get fired. We're here because we care and we have experience, and you cannot replace someone who's been a nurse for 32 years like that. You can't do it.
So just to clarify, so what's the answer? How do you think the government should be treating COVID?
I think there should be freedom of choice. I mean, some of us have underlying comorbidities, and we know this is not a safe vaccine. I'm sorry, but it usually takes 20 years to produce a safe vaccine, and that's if it's safe. The quickest before this was 7 years, and even that's too fast. You cannot produce a safe vaccine in 4 to 6 months. I'm sorry. And they are taking people for granted. And to go for our children in Australia with Moderna, 5 to 12-year-olds, when they're not allowed to do that in America, is absolutely abhorrent. Okay? All of you have got children, or if you haven't, you've got nieces and nephews. They're after our kids. Not in America. Moderna is cancelled in America. Why Australian children?
How about Scandinavia?
Why? Why Australia? Why New Zealand? Are we the testing ground? What's going on? I think we need to ask questions here, okay? We are the voice for our children. We are the voice for our people in South Australia. We are voice for patients. What about the people with cancer? What about the people with cardiac illness? What about the kids with leukemia? No one cares anymore. No one cares about anything but COVID.
You mentioned the system's broken already. What is this? Is this going to decimate it now?
Beyond decimation. Like, put it this way. I hear that AMBOs are saying 90 minutes for a person with chest pain at home. 1.5 hours to get the help you need. Okay? People are dying in their homes and not getting the assistance they need. And then there's the issue of, they died of COVID. Did they? Did they die of COVID or did they die with COVID? There's the difference. Of or with. Yes. And to lock people out who are not vaccinated, excuse me, I pay a Medicare levy, I pay private health insurance. What right does any private hospital in this city have to lock me out or have an operation when I pay private health insurance? We'll just stop paying taxes. Is that what they want? Cool.
Are there any other treatments apart from vaccines?
Absolutely, there's other treatments, Tim. There's ivermectin, there's hydroxychloroquine. 2 months after this pandemic started, pharmacies were not allowed to distribute ivermectin. GPs were put on warning from AHPRA, the AMA. You will not be prescribing ivermectin. India has no COVID. Why? Because of ivermectin. It is safe. It has won the Nobel Prize in 2015. It's been around for, 42 years now. The most safe medication ever produced in history. We have no access to it. People are buying horse wormer on eBay because it's a horse worm. It's an anti-parasitic. It's a very, very simple, safe, effective, cheap drug. That doesn't help Pfizer, does it? It's called this shit. Money.
Can we expect demonstrations like this in the future more and more?
I certainly hope so. Absolutely. I mean, just give us back our jobs. Let us do what we love doing, please. We are passionate. We're not going to cause any trouble. We're here because we care about the South Australian community. We are proud, passionate South Australians. We're sick of hearing about Melbourne. We're sick of hearing about Sydney. Let's focus on our own city now, on South Australia, Adelaide, okay? The third most livable city in the world. We want to keep that reputation.
Now, this is from what it seems like to most people is considered the Australian version of Fox in Sky News. But I will tell you this much. This clip is also, I think, very imperative for perspective to watch, to get a real idea for the reality of what's been going on, including and especially maybe even in Victoria Province or state within Melbourne. Melbourne is how we would say it. Obviously, that's Melbourne down there for some reason. Anyway, point being, this woman, Credlin, does an incredible job talking about it. And you can tell, like, she's being very somber, honest, calm, rational about it. She's being straight from the heart, and she's not at all doing anything remotely sensationalist in anything that she says. Not even a single word. Not in the way she's presenting or speaking them, and not in her body language either, which really gives a strong amount of credibility.
But first, Saturday afternoon's protest against Daniel Andrews' proposed new pandemic laws was one of the largest crowds I've seen in any Australian city on any political issue. People from all walks of life, young, old, male, female, inner city residents and families from the suburbs and regional Victoria. People of all political affiliations, but united in their opposition to a set of laws that they argue are unjust. Ordinary Victorians. Many have never said they'd protested before, but have said to me over and over again that these laws were a tipping point for them and that they couldn't stay silent any longer. Now, I know that to be true because I was there. I was there because I wanted to see and hear from these Victorians firsthand, to be able to tell you tonight of what I saw and what these Victorians told me. Like you, I've watched these protests for many months now, and like you, I've watched how they've been reported by many in the media. Cranks, rent-a-crowd activists, anti-vaxxers, you've heard it too, I'm sure. But as I walked into Spring Street on Saturday, it wasn't what I saw. I saw a lot of people like you and me, walking peacefully with their placards and their Australian flags, parents with prams, elderly Victorians, not the usual activist crowd, And if you look at the numbers, that in itself tells you this was a huge groundswell of citizens who said enough is enough. And if not me, then who'll stand up against this pandemic bill tyranny? Some in the media put the crowd at 10 to 15,000. Now, clearly, they can't count. Have a look yourself at this footage of the crowd massed at the steps of Victorian Parliament, all the way along out there on Spring Street, stretching down Burke Street towards the Burke Street Mall. Better estimates put the crowd at well over 60,000 people, some as high as 100,000. The fact that these weren't bust-in activists or the usual trades hall union crowd shows just how deeply Victorians have been impacted by this pandemic and their desire to rein in their Premier's power, not give him any more. To me, it was the moment, really, when Melbourne got some of its self-respect back. Honestly, after the humiliation of going from the world's most livable city to the world's most locked down, it was though ordinary citizens said enough, not in my name, and refused to allow an Andrews government dictatorship to trump democracy. Now, yes, there was one person in the crowd carrying a noose, a gallows, something that should have no place in any gathering. And that idiot just allowed the usual leftist propaganda merchants like Mike Carlton, 900 kilometres away in Sydney, to tag all of Saturday's protesters as ratbags. And that's what some in the media have been doing for months, picking out the worst of the protesters and claiming that they're all like that to try and diminish the legitimacy of their cause. It's a basic political tactic. It doesn't get past me. I want you to see it for what it is as well. But it wasn't just everyday Victorians speaking out against these draconian new powers. They've been backed in by 60 Victorian QCs, led by the former Supreme Court Judge and current Judge Advocate General of the Armed Forces, Jack Rush QC, and others, who have signed an open letter stating their deep concern about a bill that would, quote, allow the Victorian government effectively to rule the state by decree for the foreseeable future without proper parliamentary oversight or the usual checks and balances on executive power. The 60 QCs say that the ministry is, quote, effectively given plenary legislative power to detain people, to restrict movement, to regulate gatherings, to require information, and that these orders can be targeted based on, quote, political belief or activity. Hence the QC's worry that the new powers could end up targeting people, quote again, questioning or opposing government public health measures. This isn't criticism from political opponents. This is criticism from the most senior legal minds in the state. So it's serious. It matters. And it's bigger than just Victoria. Every Australian is right to be concerned too, because these laws don't belong anywhere in our country. Tomorrow, the legislation will be introduced into the Victorian Upper House, having already passed the Lower House. Government insiders say they'll expect the bill to go to a vote on Thursday, with some MPs I've spoken to fully anticipating that the government will gag debate to ram them through. If this was happening in Canberra, there would be no vote on any bill the same week it gets introduced into the Upper House. If this were the Senate, there would be a lengthy committee inquiry with all the parties represented around the table, citizens and experts able to make submissions about the merits or otherwise of the legislation. Not so in the People's Republic of Victoria, where the Premier wants it forced through without delay before too many of you understand what it is really all about. With the opposition against this legislation, it all comes down to the votes of 3 crossbenchers. I don't say this lightly. These laws are the worst I've ever seen. Victoria's Bar Council President calls them Stasi-like. If you care about where our country is headed, please, I encourage you to join the QCs, Victoria's Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commissioner, hundreds of business leaders out today, and the thousands of your fellow Australians who marched on Saturday to speak up before it is too late. Because this is not the democracy we've known and as Victorians still deserve.
And now this final clip is not even a clip. It's a full fucking 19-minute video live stream that somebody did. Democracy, it was like a, I can't remember. It's basically something about being democratic and free in Australia. I can't remember the name now. I feel bad about it. But this is a live stream of a raid by the Australian government by people who are specifically employed as what they officially dubbed authorized officers, which already is super indescript and vague, which is really disturbing. And of course they don't let anybody know who the fuck these people are in the first place. They have no qualifications, yet here they are hired to go and raid entire doctors' offices and other places, schools and stuff like that, of their personal and confidential information. Patient files, student files, you know, histories, literally even the entirety of the manifests of all the appointments you have had and you have in your schedule currently for the future as a doctor. In this case, they were raiding a independent doctor's medical clinic of a doctor known as Mark Hobart. He apparently had been serving his, as you'll hear, his community for well over 30 years, and he's extensively appreciated by his community. What you will see in it is the reason that the Victorian government gives for why they banned, their words, banned patients from being able to enter the building is because of the fact, and this is literally their words, and you'll see it in the video, because Dr. Hobart refused to release your personal and confidential patient files. That's why they banned people and patients from being able to attend their appointments and go inside. Because he wouldn't give them their personal and confidential medical information and files. When that's your reasoning, and you're being that bluntly honest about it, but you're using the words personal and confidential, yet nobody knows who the fuck these people are, these authorized officers of the law, that the government hired to go literally raid offices of all of that personal confidential information, it pretty much means it's not personal and it's not confidential. Now does it? When that happens, and this is the most blatant replication of exactly what the Nazi Party of Nazi Germany did in their build-up to power of their apex throughout the 30s. This is exactly what they did. They performed raids of entire people's lives, their homes, their workplaces, schools, residences, I already said that, stores, you name it, they raid it because of the fact that they're trying to, in their case, they were trying to find Jews or Jew sympathizers and basically round them up. Or at least compile their lists so that they knew who it was and where they frequented, where they went through, where they transited, who they were friends with, who had a bias or a sympathy to some Jews, who were Jewish, whatever. So that way they had a list so they could go, when they would actually raid for the people, they could go and round them all up. They literally performed these exact kind of raids. Informational ones, whatever. In this case, now the Australian government, even if it's at a state level, is performing raids of those same personal, confidential information on people and patients. And they literally do not have to give a reason for it. They can just go and do it for absolutely no fucking reason. That is extremely fucked up. It is immoral, it is unjust, and there is absolutely zero defenses for any attempt at trying to argue that that could possibly be relevant, good, somehow beneficial in any way, shape, or form. There is absolutely zero defensible. There's nothing defensible about that. And this is what's happening down there now in Victoria Province of Australia. And the federal government, the parliament there, doesn't give a fuck about it either, because they're not saying or doing anything. And as you'll hear in this video, nationally in Australia, in 2008 or 9, apparently it was, I believe he said, they officially had passed a law making it to where if the government decides that they want to go get all your personal and raid all your personal and confidential information, medical or otherwise, you can't tell them no. They can just go grab it when they want to. If they decide they're going to do, I feel like raiding information today, they can do it. They made it so that it's legally no longer personal or confidential. The Victorian government furthered that, apparently, I believe it was said in 2019, with a supposed Health and Wellbeing Act, where they basically made it so that it was the easiest thing ever to raid, and nobody could tell them not, nobody could stop them from doing it. It would be illegal to stop them from doing it. If they decided to raid, they would raid. And if you try to stop them, now you're impeding, and you're basically getting involved in government stuff, and you can be seen as a criminal and potentially arrested for it. It's a fucked up system that they have going on down there, especially in Victoria, but like just in general in Australia. It's going to hell in a handbasket. They're just going headfirst down into the bottomless void, black void that is of a pit, that is totalitarianism, that is autocracy, that is dictatorship, that is full-on fascism. It's horrifying because, well, I'm gonna let you watch this because I've gone on enough about this, and then I'll finish off with my points after this.
No patience.
All right, I'll stand outside then. All right, well, I've got the I've got the live on. I might have some questions for the authorised officers when they leave.
The troops are here. The troops are here. Morgan.
G'day, mate. How you going? I've got a live stream on.
Yeah, no worries.
How you going?
Troops are gathering.
We've got authorised officers inside. They're
going to be for 4 hours.
giving Dr. Mark Hobart a hard time. An asset to our community. A family doctor of 3 decades. A very honourable man.
Yes.
And this is just absolutely disgraceful what is happening in our country. This is Nazi Germany unfolding right here in Australia. We are respecting the wishes, and we're not going inside. But I've fired up the live stream. This is such a miscarriage of justice. The Victorian government has banned patients from entering this surgery because Dr. Mark Hobart refused to surrender your private and confidential patient files. That's right. An honourable man is an authorised officer in there walking around. I've got the live stream on Dr. Hobart. No. Come down when duty calls. I'm here. Good afternoon. Can I come in? I've got the live on.
You can be his witness.
Yeah, on there.
The clinic's closed, you can leave, thank you.
I've been told I can be here.
Okay.
We're in the surgery of Dr. Mark Hobart. true asset to our community, family doctor of 3 decades, one of the most honourable people I know. Dutifully and faithfully serving his community. And this is how he's treated. Dr. Mark Hobart refused to hand over his patient files, respecting the sacred relationship between doctor and patient.
You've invited them, doctor?
I saw him standing outside, I know.
He's gone. Okay. Are you a patient or were you invited in?
Excuse me?
Are you a patient?
I don't quite understand the question, Mr. Authorised Officer.
Mark, they want the back door open so they can get out the back door. Oh, it's open.
I'm not sure that's appropriate.
When I came to start, there was one also started here, still they're having exemptions for all of the recorded. I think you're going to be.
Well, Jenny, you know, it's private stuff, but Jenny doesn't need an exemption.
No, why are you asking about me?
Well, you've got to have an exemption, or yeah, you've got to have an exemption or the double backs to work here.
I am double backed.
That's what I mean. That's
Oh,
what
yeah,
I'm
I'm
trying to
double
find.
Yeah,
I said the only way.
Oh.
It works here, that's.
Well, they're asking about. See, I don't like really giving.
Well, actually, no comments. I don't really want to air.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah,
The doctor has to
me.
supply that to me. He has to supply proof that you're double vaxxed,
I can
or you've got
supply
exemption.
proof.
No.
Yeah, for me.
Sorry, the doctor has to have
I don't feel comfortable with giving out people's medical information. I really
Okay,
don't.
all right. Okay, that's all right. What do you think?
Okay.
Tell them nothing.
You put that somewhere.
Well, that's ironic, isn't it? Because you've taken all of that personal information from all of the patients that we have here.
I don't know.
Well, if those patients don't know you either, you've taken their information.
I am not a patient.
Yeah. Oh, legal advice. We're allowed to have witnesses in here whilst you're trying to search.
No, but not talk at my stuff.
Oh.
I've explained.
No, I understand.
And I'm not entering into an
Thank you,
argument. I've
Mr.
tried to
No, I'll pop that away. We'll make that nice and safe.
Thank you. And I'll ring when I'll find something else. Or the doctor can ring me.
Yeah. We'll just see what
Morgan
else.
C. Jonas.
But I believe I'm allowed to do home visits. I've just spoken to APRA and APRA said I can do home visits. And yeah, so
We done?
You guys going now? Or are you coming back?
Go to the front, please.
You guys feel good about yourselves?
Come to the front.
Dr. Hobart is an asset to our community. There's no commitment more important than the commitment a doctor makes to his patients to uphold their privacy. Would any of you like to comment? Would you like to comment for the media? 3 decades serving his community. That's Dr. Mark Hobart. He's a wonderful man, a great family doctor, faithfully serving his community, and you're serving Daniel Andrews. Shame, shame, shame. We'd expect this in Nazi Germany, not here in Australia. Hope you guys sleep well at night. You guys will all be implicated in this crime.
So they've got what they wanted, have they?
I'm not sure what they wanted, but what they've done is they're punishing one of the most upstanding members of our community.
Scapegoat.
How much do you guys get paid? Feel good about yourselves? Nothing to say, huh?
First of many, is it? Is it going to be on the news?
Nothing to say.
Have a look at yours.
What a disgrace.
What are you going to do with all that?
Are you a medical professional yourself? What's the qualifications one needs to become an authorised officer?
This is a war crime. This is a war crime. Remember this? You are a dickhead. Well, you all come in separate fucking cars, did you?
Look at them drive off.
Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off.
As you can hear, some members of the public are not happy with these so-called authorised officers. I am absolutely furious. I am absolutely furious. This is a state of affairs in our country where an honourable man like Dr. Mark Hobart, who has faithfully served his community for 3 decades, is treated like a criminal. You'd expect this in Nazi Germany, you wouldn't expect it in Australia. If anyone's still sleeping, wake up. This is what's happening to good people in our country. Would Dr. Mark Hobart like to make a comment while I've got the live on? Excuse me, I've got the live on. Would you like to make a comment right now to the audience? There's about 3,500 people watching right now. Dr. Mark Hobart.
Hello, I've just been invaded by 7 authorised officers from the Department of Health, and they seized my confidential patient files and my appointment book and various other documents. They say they're going to give me an itemised list of what they've taken, and it was quite an intimidating experience. I think they've gone now.
They've gone in separate cars.
They've gone. They made no comment on the way out. They had nothing to say.
Okay, and yeah, they just came here to seize files, I'm pretty sure, that's all. They just wanted to seize patient files.
Did they identify themselves? That any identification? They looked like could have been anyone.
I had to, I took pictures of most of their cards. I had to ask them for their card. I had to ask them to show me the signature on the card because, you know, it's on the other side. And so it wasn't as though they came in and say, hello, we're from the Department of Health, I'm such and such, you know, they all just came in and started walking around and said, we're going to search your premises, whether you like it or not.
What department did they say they were from?
Still don't know.
I think they said they were, well, they had authorised officers.
That means nothing.
Yeah.
That means nothing.
Were you served with some sort of warrant?
The HHS? The HHS?
No warrant. I've got pictures on my phone.
It's
I think it says Department of Health.
Right.
It's up to you. Would you like to?
That? You don't have to show it to us, but can you confirm and have a look?
This is definitely.
Dr. Hobart, would you like to talk more? Or would you like some privacy now?
I can.
It's up to you.
I can talk some more. Yeah, I can talk some more.
Where do you think this is all heading?
Well, this means that the government should go to any doctor and enter their premises and seize the patient's files for no reason. They haven't given me any reason why they wanted to see my patient's files, and so this means the government can just go to a doctor's surgery and take patients' files for whatever reason and then remove them from the premises, and this has happened right now here.
Dr. Hobart, I was under the impression that one of the cornerstones of the medical practice is the privacy commitment that doctors make with their patients. What's happened to that?
That's gone out the window. I was told by these people that there's no such thing as patient confidentiality under the new laws.
New laws? When did they come out?
I believe that the new laws came out in 2008. It's the Wellbeing Act, the Public Health and Wellbeing Act. That's the one that Victorian Public Health and Wellbeing Act is the ones that these officers, Department of Health officers, use. I think they use Section 190, and then they also use Section 170, if I remember correctly. The other group that can do this is APRA, and they can, under their national law, which was passed in 2009, can also demand that doctors hand over their files to them without patient consent.
Are you surprised there's no media here? And if they do come, are you going to speak to them?
Yes.
You will speak to them?
I will speak to them.
All media. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you expect that?
If they do come, I think they'll twist it and make me look like some sort of crazy anti-vaxxer or something like that.
Dr. Mark Hobart, is there any way the public can support you right now? Is there anything anyone can do to help?
Well, I think people are probably unaware that this can happen, but it certainly can. People thought that they had privacy and confidentiality with their medical files. This is not true. There is no privacy and confidentiality with medical files anymore. The new laws have thrown this out the window. So anybody's files can be seized by the government, and they won't know about it.
Are you aware of what they've taken? Because I saw one of the guys had a handful of files.
Well,
are you aware of every single file?
No,
he just took what they wanted.
He wouldn't let me see every single file. He only let me see the outside of the files, of the bundle of files.
How does he know what to grab though?
I don't know how
he just grabbed anything.
He just grabbed. Yeah.
Not current.
He didn't tell me why he was taking the files or anything.
He didn't ask for the patients in the last few weeks.
No.
He just grabbed files.
Yeah.
Okay. Did he give you an itinerary of what he took?
He says he's going to give me itinerary of what he took.
So he didn't do it on the spot?
No, so they've gone
Police
away.
do that on the spot. They should be doing that on the spot.
No, they didn't. They're going to apparently come back and give me the itinerary later. They're going to take it to an itinerary specialist who's got
all right, a government appointed specialist.
Itinerary. Nice.
Yeah, Dr. Mark Hobart, if you have word about that, please let me know, and I'll capture anything, any misconduct, anything that we can do to help you.
Unfortunately, I've also taken my appointment book, which is very bad.
Your appointment book?
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to return it or when they're going to return it, or
obviously they use that to see who your patients have been.
They reluctantly let me copy pages of the appointment book so I could tell, because we need to forewarn patients about the fact that I'm currently unable to see patients in the surgery. I'm only able to talk to them on the phone. I can't charge for patients, so I have no income.
Is that because they killed your Medicare account?
No, they said they issued me with a prohibition notice and said I must cease trading. So I can't charge patients a fee.
Is this Department of Health?
Department of Health, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any specific names that gave you that that prohibition? Is there any specific names? Like, is there a manager or someone involved in there?
The main person, the leader was a Mr. Ross Hill.
Ross Hill.
Ross Hill.
Okay.
Yeah,
Department of Health.
HIW.
We'll be sure to get onto him and ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hobart. Thank you for your service to the community.
If you need any more help, let us know.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We're right behind you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
We're right behind you.
Thank you. I'll
There's going to be
close
plenty
the
of people
broadcast.
coming because it's posted on Facebook and
Yeah.
it's being spread out by.
Bit late though.
We love and respect you for upholding your patients' privacy. Thank you so much. It means the world to all of us. It gives us hope and inspiration. Thank you for upholding the commitment you took.
Stick it out, please.
I will.
We are with you 100%.
Thank you. I will stick it out. I will not cave in.
God bless you, Dr. Hobart.
That's what we want to hear, champion.
So, here's one of the things I was going to say. One of the reasons why it's fucked up, besides it's obviously common sense, like, anybody with a heart and a mind, common sense, and any kind of compassion or decency, any kind of ability to sense and know what is truly right and wrong, knows everything about all of this is wrong, no matter how you try to spin it and defend it. It is indefensible. Everybody in that case that I just explained before that knows that fully. And they know that it's fully fascist in nature, meaning Nazi Germany, North Korea, modern day China, you name it, USSR, you name it, that's the way it is. Current day Hungary. Austria is going that direction very quickly too. Like, you have a lot of fucked up shit going on in the world today, let alone throughout history, of course. Everybody knows this. One of the other ways it's really fucked up, though, is the fact that we got this to this point now, where you gotta put yourself in the shoes of a refugee, or somebody who's going to be fleeing a horrible situation, a literal life-threatening situation on multiple fronts from their original country. The world likes to claim that's called third world, or second world, so developing. I don't know what's with the fucking worlds, I never understood it. I think it's so fucking petty and stupid thing, but that would be a digression. The point is, that's what you would call it. Okay, sure. Say you come from one of those nations in Africa, or you're coming as a refugee, maybe a Uyghur refugee, I don't know, from East Turkestan or Tibet in China, which should be their own nations, different story. But yeah, say it's something like that, or you're coming from Myanmar or some other place that's really, really fucked up right now. Afghanistan's an easy one, Syria's an easy one to think of. You get the idea. So you're a refugee from one of these nations, war-torn, just simply undeveloped and deprived, or barely able to develop, constantly tenuous, never really able to progress, right? You're a refugee from one of these countries. What is the world always clamoring about? The nations always clamoring about are Australia, US, Canada, Germany, France, sometimes England, Kiwi land, that is New Zealand. Like, you're talking about those nations almost exclusively, right? So these are nations they want to flee to, and they want to have their new lives in. They want to set their refugee status up in, of course, because it's supposedly the last remaining bastions of supposedly true democracy and true freedom, freedoms and all that stuff, right? Other than the United States, decent to great health plans. And for them, everything about it's amazing. Even their social care, even the US would be excessively more than they had in but most of these places. So admittedly, even that's better for them too, even though it's really fucking sad and not saying much because there's basically none of that here anyway, in comparison to a lot of the rest of the world. Point being, these are the nations that you think of. They're pretty much exclusively. The world raves about these nations the most. They're like, oh, this is where you want refugees to. Okay, cool. So these refugees, you put yourself in those shoes, now you're one of them. What are the countries you're going to think about? It's going to be these kind of nations. Australia is one that you would definitely think about, and a lot of them would probably opt to go to. Especially if you like the weather better, right? And the unique exoticness of it. Okay, cool, great. But that's exactly one of the things that make the way they're going so fucked up right now. Because these people, these refugees that you put yourself in the shoes of, you're going there because you think, well, they would never go that way, right? Because that's what I'm trying to escape. I'm trying to escape all this kind of same shit and a lot more fucked up shit. And yet, now you arrive there and you think, oh, thank God I can breathe again. And then you realize that's all a fucking farce. And it couldn't be further from reality, especially right now in Australia, down under. Now you're in Australia. You think you can breathe easy until you realize they're right down that same fucking path. Voluntarily, by the way. To achieve the same shit that they just escaped from. People are voluntarily giving away their freedoms. They're voluntarily doing it because they are stupid and manipulable enough that they actually have been manipulated to actually sincerely believe that somehow, some way, it's logical and for the greater good to relinquish these freedoms collectively. And they keep doing that. They're made to believe a bunch of lies. Propaganda. And on top of that, even when they're involuntarily giving up rights, like they are in Australia, clearly, they don't care. Their government's still going for it anyway. They're saying, we never give a fuck about you anyway. It's about time you woke up and realized it doesn't matter how hard you vote, and how many of you vote, and how much you push. You don't give us enough money, so we don't care. As in, your vote's never counted. Enjoy that. And then these people are going to see, clearly that's true. And that the people still demand that it isn't true, and then the opposite is true, when clearly it's true only in that their votes have never counted. And they're literally basically screaming that in your face, word for word, right now. Especially in places like Australia. And yet, you're like, no, buddy, our voices matter. They have so much... Do they? Do they really? Or is the more that you're standing up, and the more of you that are starting to vocalize, the more aggressively and quicker they're starting to cramp down on you. And try to crush you harder with their iron boot. And say, fuck you, no. Here's a bunch more new... even more restrictive and dictatorial laws. The truth is, the latter is true. Especially, again, with Australia right here, right now, in the current moment. These people are going to see that, and they are already dealing with tons of trauma, tons of fucking horrible past, not having a foundation yet. They need that structure to be able to build themselves upon, and yet, they're living now in a new place they just got to, only realizing they're trying to go down the fucking path that led their nation to that fucking point in the first place. Now, all the problems they were trying to escape are becoming real there. And they realize the rest of the world and how they described it was lying. Or at least, if they weren't lying, they were just that fucking blind to reality and ignorant as fuck. You put yourself in that refugee's shoes, that's excessive amounts, even more brand new trauma. And stress. And terror. And lack of ability to have any hope left in your whole entire soul. Like, you're just gonna fall empty. You're gonna get super fucking depressed because fuck my life. I thought I was giving my family and myself a better life, but clearly that was also not true. But how was I supposed to know? I was just listening to what the rest of the world was talking about. And they made them out to be, and it was beautiful. Now, it's all a lie. That's the saddest fucking part of it all. And that's another reason why it's so fucked up. So now, there's a bunch of people, in fact, refugees who probably did just come there from those places, that are waking up and going, oh my god, it's happening fucking again. It's fucking happening again. Yeah. That's probably one of the more fucked up things about it, too. Is for that reason as well. Here's something you have to consider, too, when you're looking at all of this that's happening right now down in Australia, right? Not only is it a clone in the steps that Nazi Germany took to rise to their power, they're pretty much in step with it. And their own modern, differently branded rendition of the same things, right? You have to, perhaps the most important thing you have to knowledge about it is this is not the past we're talking about. We're talking about right here, right now, in this very moment in time, in all of our current existences. as material beings. This is really happening right now, right here in front of our eyes, that we have to audibly sense and hear existing and building itself up. We have to watch it happen. We have to taste it. We have to smell it. We have to feel it. We're literally living through this right fucking now. So I wouldn't blame you if your brain automatically autopilots like, you're just stuck in the past. Boy, that's just the easy cop-out way of trying to pretend that it can't happen. This is impossible. It would never happen again, right? Yes, it absolutely can and will happen again, because it is happening right fucking now. In this exact second, in this moment. They're barreling like a bat out of hell as fast and hard as they can, their governments down there. As fast as they can to a totalitarian regime. That is what their aim is. That's what their goal is. And they're making it as clear as possible. That they will not let anybody or anything stand in their fucking way. They're going to do what the fuck they want, when they want to, and you're going to just have to fucking swallow it and accept it. Or you're going to be a criminal, and you're going to be criminalized for it. Which is already happening, too. People are getting criminalized for living their own lives how they see fit. Living their own lives freely. How it's meant to be lived. To go out there and buy your own fucking groceries. To breathe your own fucking air without restriction of something over your fucking face. Being able to go out and recreate, which is necessary for health. Whether it's hiking, walking, visiting a park, going for a bike ride, whatever the fuck it is. For going to a fucking yoga studio, to going to a medical office, to attending your kids to school, to going to a concert. Your entire life is dictated to now down there. And moreover, they're literally actively criminalizing harder and harder and more people for just living their lives. That's right now. Right here in this very fucking second. This is happening in our world, in our reality, in our timeline as I fucking speak. As you watch this video. In a supposed bastion of democracy and freedom known as Australia. But it's also happening at different speeds in your nation too. The United States has been slowly going this direction for a long time. And they're still keeping it slow, which is actually probably really a lot more concerning given the fact that this is the fucking wet dream of a lot of the elites of this fucking nation, the United States, who control the politics of it, and probably the world, alongside a good handful of other of the global elites. And whether you believe that or not, the fact is it's been slowly going that direction more and more as time wears on. And this is the nation of the most gullible people of the fucking world. The people who love to just follow, especially if you have a title. They'll just implicitly believe everything you say without thinking for themselves for a fraction of a second. Because you might suddenly be accused of wrongthink if you thought for yourself and then didn't agree with the mass majority that was just following what they were told to believe. That's the United States people in a nutshell. And the fact that they are trying to take it as slowly as possible, but letting Australia be the ground zero for it, that's really, really, really fucking weird. And it should concern everybody. Because it means that something even more sinister is happening behind the curtain, so to speak, behind the veil. The puppet masters are doing something very different than what they're showing us in front of that curtain of theirs. In front of that veil, with their puppets, known as politicians. There's a big fucking difference between what we're being shown and what's really happening back there. Clearly, it needs to be a concern for everybody around the fucking world. So in the end, this is the true reality of what all is going on in the world when it comes down to all this stupid COVID stuff. It's all entirely about dictation, power, control, and profit, and it's not about anything else. And it couldn't be clearer around the world, but especially Australia is the impeccable global example of that. Because that's why this is the excuse they're using as a COVID thing for literally all of their autocratic implementations, whether it's Victoria, the state of Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, or for that matter, just nationally in Australia in general. This is happening all over Australia, but it's especially happening in these main 3 states. And it's just aggressively and rapidly progressing faster and faster and harder that full totalitarian direction that's mimicking directly Nazi Germany. So again, this should be concerning to literally everybody around the world. And everybody around the world who's watching this needs to be vocal about it and needs to stand up in any way, shape, or form they can against this horrific reality of this totalitarian regime and state that seems to be trying to be installed at different rates and speeds across the world right now. Because it's not acceptable for anybody, whether you have common sense or not. It just can't, it's literally everything about every part of this is fully indefensible. That all said, though, like I said, I'm going to be outputting also a just straight raw compilation of all these different things in Australia out as its own video as well for everybody to watch, without any commentary, without any face, without anything like that, for everybody to just watch for themselves without any kind of commentary, any kind of opinions or perspectives on it, so they can just see straight up from the horse's mouth, directly from the source, what's really happening. So they can get their own perspectives and make up their own minds about if they really think that it's really about the greater good or not anymore. Then on top of that, I'm also going to, of course, produce and output a video compilation. Might be more of a slideshow than a video, but it'll have some video clips in it that are about the opposite perspective of what the mainstream media, at least here in the United States and a lot of the other Western nations, output very biased towards. Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, all the other big pharma companies, the CDC and World Health Organization, and, you know, this hardcore pro-vaccination bias thing where they're like, oh, here's false statistics that we're going to demand are real statistics, and anyone who produces something that doesn't agree with these statistics clearly are the ones who are producing the false ones. These are from literal doctors, truly independent research groups that are not funded by big pharma or government agencies or the AMA or anything like that, or the Mayo Clinic or any of these doctors' clinics. It's literally doctors, biologists, virologists, people who know what the fuck they're talking about, and statisticians and all that stuff, and they're actually collecting the real data and they're outputting it. And they're also sleuthing. They're watching, gauze-hawking super closely to things like press conferences from governments and the big medical corporations and groups and the CDC and the World Health Organization, so that they can, and the FDA and stuff like that, so they can literally look and verify and prove that, look, had this slide that they showed for 2 seconds, literally 2, during this press briefing before they approved a vaccine for kids, or whatever it is. That way you can clearly see for yourself the real data and statistics, which is directly contradictory and against anything that's actually produced by the World Health Organization, the Centers for Disease Control, from the American Medical Association, from the Mayo Clinic, from any of these, you know, from Cambridge, from any of these fucking massively, globally, like, looked to places that are supposedly the foremost experts on this stuff. National Institute of Health. Like, literally, you will verifiably find it's in direct contradiction to all of the information that we are getting fed by our media groups, by our governments, by our officials and people with titles, even our own celebrities. They're literally feeding us lies. And this is a direct contradiction to those lies, which means that, of course, you could just argue that those are the lies. But we all know that the FDA, the EPA, the CDC, the World Health Organization, these politicians, they're literally all directly bought, paid for, and funded heavily by the mega big pharmaceutical corporations. So big pharma, so the big biochemical corporations, all of it. They're funded directly by them. A lot of these doctors are funded heavily by them. And they would get their lives ruined and blackballed to hell and back as supposed evil quacks, poisoning and hurting people if they ever came out with the reality of this is of how the fucking system works around the world, but especially here in the United States. That couldn't be more true. And we all know that this is literally verifiable with our own research. And it's become way easier because of everybody who's been fighting against the falsehoods that we've been pushed by our media, by our governments, by those companies themselves, and their stakeholders and all of that. So all of this is so fucking important. And I'm going to output that video very, very soon for everybody to be able to watch for themselves. Again, that one, just like the prior one I mentioned, will have no commentary. It will have no face or anything on it. It's just going to be the raw clips and screenshots and all of that themselves for you to watch. And I highly encourage you to watch those. And like I said in the beginning of the video, up in the upper right hand corner of the screen up here, tickle the little eye, that little fucker is going to have links to, probably eventually those videos if I remember, hopefully I will, but it's going to at least guarantee have a link to the political commentary in the month video I released on Australia. And that way, this was for September, that way you can get a better perspective and see even more videos closer to the beginning of their onslaught and bomb rushing autocracy, dictatorship, totalitarianism, because it's super fucking important. And that way you'll see the clips themselves, and then you'll also be able to hear my perspective and why I see it the way it is, and why other people therefore would naturally also end up seeing it in various ways that might not necessarily align with how you saw it. But I digress. This is something that is so intensely important and imperative for the world to pay attention to and watch. It is such a fucked up time we're living in, and just about the only and best thing we could possibly do is collectively around the world recognize this shit, share it around, and do anything we can to stand against it. Call it out to its fucking face and say, fuck you, we know what you're doing, and we're not gonna fucking stand for it. Even if it means we have to be mowed down by your fucking mercenary crews, we don't care, because this is something to be a martyr for. It's almost never a smart person's thing to be a martyr. But in this kind of an instance, if we want to save ourselves from ourselves, we need to be a martyr, because there's no fucking choice we have left. It's getting that bad. So if we're going to save ourselves from ourselves, we got to do it now. Feel free to share around the video any of the other videos that speak to you or you feel is a good enough perspective. Whether you think it's a lunatic one, you agree with some things, disagree with some other things, you're neutral on it, but you feel like it's a cool thing to be able to share the perspectives on, or you actually do agree with a lot of it or all of it. Doesn't matter. If you have any value out of it at all like that, make sure you share it around. It's a very good thing to do. And yeah, this kind of content, if it ever got enough traction, could very easily wind up with my channel and my emails and everything else getting completely banned, or at least heavily suspended, because how dare I post? Well, that would be indicative of truth, actually. Usually. But I digress. So I'd highly encourage that, and otherwise, thank you for watching. And let me know what you think down below about what's going on in the world, let alone what's going on down there, and what you think and would suggest we could all do together about it. And hopefully, if you believe, especially if it would have any kind of a true impact in the fight against this true tyranny. Thank you for spending this much fucking time with me and watching. I really appreciate it, because this stuff is so fucking important for every single one of us people on the face of this earth. Stay safe out there. Fight for what you believe in, stand for it, even if it means standing alone. And I hope to see you in whatever the heck the next video may be. Goodbye.